Welcome, anointed ones. Today you are about to step into a story that defies the ordinary, a story that does not settle for the mundane or the predictable. The narrative you are about to witness is not just another inheritance dispute, it is a revelation, a demonstration of resilience, and a testament to the power of truth. This is a story where courage meets destiny, where patience and integrity turn the tables on deception. As you settle in, know this: the courtroom you are about to enter is not a place where truth is born. No, it is a place where lies go to die, a stage where deceit and manipulation are exposed under the relentless scrutiny of evidence, time, and unwavering resolve. Inheritance battles are notoriously brutal. Nearly 70% of these cases involve accusations of fraud, theft, or manipulation, with families turning against one another in ways that reveal the rawest edges of human ambition and greed. But what happened in this case eclipses those statistics. This was not a polite negotiation over assets, a careful reading of a will over tea, or a quiet procedural exchange. This was a war disguised as paperwork, a clash so intense that it reads like a script pulled straight from a Netflix drama, complete with intrigue, betrayal, and a climax that leaves no one unscathed. Yet beyond the drama lies the deeper truth. This story is not merely about moneyland or titles. It is about uncovering corruption, confronting deception, and reclaiming what was always rightfully yours. It is about resilience in the face of overwhelming pressure and the restoration of ancestral justice long denied. From the first moment the gavel strikes to the last echo in that courtroom, this tale is a testament to what happens when integrity stands firm and truth refuses to be silenced. In this case, the inheritance was not just property, it was empowerment, revelation, and the awakening of a legacy that cannot be erased. The courtroom in this story became more than a venue for legal arguments. It became a mirror reflecting the true nature of everyone involved. What unfolded went far beyond the simple exchange of legal papers. This was victory redefined, not merely securing property or wealth, but exposing the hidden truths that had been carefully cloaked in deception for years. Every document presented, every testimony delivered, every cross-examination conducted was not just evidence for the court. It was a reflection of character, a revelation of intentions, and an unmasking of corruption that extended from family members to the officials entrusted with upholding justice. In that space, the courtroom stopped being a neutral ground and became a stage where the reality of greed, manipulation, and falsehood was illuminated for all to see. The mechanism of exposure was deceptively simple, yet profoundly effective, standing firm. By refusing to bow to intimidation, by resisting the pressure to settle compromise or play by the rules of deceit, the truth began to surface naturally, as if drawn out by its own gravity. Lies unravel under scrutiny when confronted with patience, clarity, and unwavering resolve, and in this case, they could not withstand the weight of persistence. The very evidence that opponents tried to bury became the instrument of their exposure. What they had counted on to silence the rightful claimant instead turned against them, revealing patterns of coercion, fabrication, and hidden agendas that had long been assumed invisible. The impact was seismic. Reputations that once seemed untouchable were shredded. Masks that had hidden selfish motives and false loyalties fell away, exposing relationships that had masqueraded as familial but were in truth transactional. Every observer, from legal professionals to family members, could witness the disparity between those who stood on integrity and those who had tried to manipulate the system for their gain. This was more than a legal victory. It was a reckoning, a revelation, and a moment where truth, patience, and courage transformed the courtroom into a mirror no one could ignore. The victory in this inheritance case went far beyond the courtroom. It became a restoration of a family legacy, a reclamation of history that had been suppressed, rewritten, or stolen over generations. Restoring the family name was not simply a symbolic gesture. It was an act of justice that protected the lineage, honor, and memory of ancestors whose voices had been silenced. Every forged document, every manipulated testimony, every attempt to erase rightful heirs became a battle, not just against individuals, but against the erasure of a story that belonged to an entire bloodline. By standing firm and securing the verdict, you became the living vessel through which ancestral justice flowed, ensuring that the truth of your family's history would endure and be recognized by all who witnessed it. In this way, inheritance transformed into identity. Land wealth and legal rights were far more than material assets. They were tangible symbols of belonging, markers of a rightful place in a world that had tried to deny it. Every acre reclaimed, every title restored, every document validated was a testament that you were not only entitled to the estate, you were entitled to your story, your position, and your lineage. In claiming what was yours, you asserted the undeniable truth of who you are and where you come from, turning what others tried to suppress into proof of your existence, your authority, and your connection to generations past. The long-term impact of this victory cannot be overstated. While money and property can be spent, transferred, or lost, the court's validation secures something far deeper: lineage, moral authority, and the integrity of your family's narrative. The justice rendered echoes through time, creating a precedent for future generations who can inherit not just material wealth, but a reclaimed history, a preserved legacy, and the knowledge that truth, perseverance, and rightful claim ultimately prevail. In this case, winning was not merely an acquisition, it was the restoration of identity, dignity, and ancestral power that cannot be taken away. As the inheritance case unfolded, the truth did more than secure your assets. It began to surface as a force that exposed lies, forgeries, and manipulation for all to see. Every falsified signature, every doctored document, and every orchestrated attempt to distort the facts left a trail that could no longer be ignored. What had once been carefully hidden under layers of intimidation and secrecy became tangible evidence, a map of deceit pointing directly to those who had attempted to erase your rightful claim. The very tactics they had hoped would secure their victory turned against them, revealing not just ethical lapses, but legal vulnerabilities that authorities could act upon. In this courtroom, the weight of truth was relentless, and persistence turned their schemes into liabilities they could not evade. The result of this exposure was unavoidable. Criminal charges began circulating, not as some abstract idea of karma, but as the real consequences of their actions finally coming to light. Every falsified record, every coached witness, every backroom maneuver became part of a growing body of evidence that could be traced, documented, and prosecuted. The people who had assumed they were untouchable now faced the tangible reality that wrongdoing leaves traces that the law, when paired with determination and patience, will follow to its rightful conclusion. Their confidence eroded, their power diminished, and the very walls they built to protect themselves began to close in. The key insight from this stage of your victory is profound. Winning an inheritance case is never just about claiming property. When you refuse to bow to deception, when you stand firm in pursuit of what is rightfully yours, the ripple effect extends far beyond material gain. Accountability is triggered, and the law begins to reclaim what was stolen. Your triumph becomes a catalyst for justice, proving that persistence and integrity not only secure what belongs to you, but also shine a light on corruption, forcing those who tried to manipulate the system to answer for their unlawful actions. The opposition in this inheritance battle had built what they believed was an unshakable case against you. Their tactics were calculated, layered, and systematic. Bribes exchanged behind closed doors, forged documents crafted to erase your claim, witnesses coached to deliver rehearsed narratives, and a network of influence they assumed would shield their deceit. Every move was designed to intimidate, confuse, and overpower you, creating the illusion that their version of history would prevail. They treated the courtroom as a playground for manipulation, relying on secrecy and the assumption that persistence alone would bend the truth in their favor. But what they underestimated was the power of unwavering resolve, the force of patience, and the inevitability of scrutiny. How it failed is a testament to the principle that deception cannot endure against consistent exposure. Each fabricated document, each coached statement, each attempt at bribery left cracks in their foundation. Small inconsistencies, seemingly minor at first, began to form patterns that investigators, judges, and impartial observers could not ignore. One contradiction forced another into view. One suspicious signature demanded explanation and triggered further inquiry. What had been designed as airtight manipulation became an unraveling chain, meticulously exposed through adherence to facts, evidence, and relentless observation. The collapse was not dramatic in the sense of sudden fireworks, but methodical, inevitable, and thorough, a demonstration that corruption, no matter how sophisticated, cannot withstand sustained truth. The lesson embedded in this collapse is profound persistence and insistence on truth dismantled deception without the need for aggression or theatrics. You did not have to fight dirty or outmaneuver them with cunning. By standing firm, following the facts, and refusing to accept fabricated narratives, you allowed their own schemes to implode. Integrity, clarity, and perseverance became the instruments that toppled a carefully rigged case, proving that deception cannot survive when confronted by unyielding truth. In their desperation to secure what was never rightfully theirs, the opposition turned to the ultimate act of deceit, forging a will. They believed that by fabricating a document, erasing your name, and presenting it as authentic, they could rewrite history and close the door on your claim forever. What they failed to understand, however, is that deception carries its own signature, and in trying to erase you, they inadvertently created the very evidence that would unravel their entire scheme. Every falsified line, every forged signature, and every manufactured detail became a thread that, when pulled, revealed the full extent of their manipulation. In their attempt to silence you, they handed you the proof you needed to hold them accountable. The mechanics of this exposure were meticulous yet inevitable. Modern investigative tools, handwriting analysis, forensic review, and a careful examination of document provenance turned every inconsistency into an unassailable trail of misconduct. Paper that did not age naturally, ink that reacted differently under testing, and signatures that failed to match their purported authors all converged into a narrative of deliberate deceit. Every attempt to construct a believable story, from orchestrated emails to hurried phone calls, only deepened the evidence against them. The more they tried to make the forgery look legitimate, the more it betrayed their desperation, painting a clear portrait of intentional wrongdoing. The outcome was as poetic as it was just. The forged will became the rope that hung the fraudsters. What they had intended to be their tool for erasing history turned into the instrument of their own undoing. In trying to rewrite the past, they revealed themselves, their guilt, and their moral bankruptcy for all to see. Through this act of persistence, integrity, and patient exposure, justice transformed their weapon into their downfall, turning deception into incontrovertible evidence that could not be denied or hidden. In winning this inheritance case, what you truly reclaimed extended far beyond land, money, or titles. You inherited the right to reclaim your family's narrative and history, restoring authorship over stories that had been rewritten, erased, or manipulated for generations. Each document presented, each testimony given, and each steadfast refusal to accept falsehoods became a restoration of truth, not just for yourself, but for the lineage that came before you. The court was no longer merely a venue for legal argument. It became a stage where silenced voices could speak through your persistence, where the distortions of the past were dismantled, and where your rightful place in the family story was reaffirmed. What was once rewritten by opportunists, those who sought to exploit and erase, was now corrected under the weight of undeniable proof. The cultural and moral impact of this restoration cannot be overstated. By reclaiming your narrative, you set into motion a correction of social memory, institutional records, and family histories that had been distorted or suppressed. Future generations will encounter documented truths where whispers of lies once circulated. Registries, banks, and institutions now reflect legitimacy instead of deception. Family tales, genealogies, and even communal recognition are now aligned with reality thanks to your unwavering pursuit of justice. Ultimately, this inheritance secured more than material wealth. It secured authority, integrity, and a moral high ground that transcends generations. Your victory provides a foundation for descendants to stand on unshakable ground, empowered by clarity, ethical certainty, and the knowledge that truth, persistence, and rightful action can restore what was once stolen. This is a legacy that cannot be confiscated, erased, or diminished, a beacon of justice and moral authority that endures beyond any asset or title. One of the most striking revelations of this inheritance battle was how greed exposed the hidden battlegrounds within your own family. Blood ties, often assumed to guarantee loyalty, proved to be fragile, conditional, and at times deceptive. Those who should have stood beside you, who shared your name, your story, and your lineage, were sometimes the very individuals plotting to erase your claim. In their pursuit of personal gain, they revealed the uncomfortable truth that kinship is not merely defined by DNA, it is defined by integrity, loyalty, and shared commitment to what is right. The courtroom became the theater where these fractures were laid bare, forcing both family and observers to confront the stark reality that betrayal often originates where trust is presumed to be absolute. Your victory in this context became far more than the acquisition of assets. It was a revelation of values, character, and true kinship. By standing firm and refusing to be intimidated, you compelled everyone to see the difference between those driven by greed and those aligned with justice. Relationships once presumed sacred were unmasked as transactional or opportunistic, while your unwavering integrity elevated the standard of what family truly means. The courtroom, in this sense, served as a moral compass, projecting the actions and intentions of each party for all to witness. Through this triumph, you reshaped the understanding of loyalty and kinship, proving that blood alone does not define family actions do. Your victory forced the world to acknowledge who truly belonged, who acted with honor, and who had merely exploited lineage for self-interest. In doing so, you transformed a personal legal battle into a universal lesson on trust, loyalty, and the courage required to confront betrayal, even within the closest of bonds. In the unfolding of this inheritance battle, your rightful place was proven not just through legal arguments, but by the very actions of those who sought to erase you. Every forged signature, every hurried phone call, every attempt to manipulate witnesses became a roadmap, exposing their lack of legitimacy. Their energy spent constructing lies only highlighted the weakness of their claims, revealing that their authority was a fragile facade built on deception. By persisting with truth, diligence, and patience, you allowed their own strategies to betray them, demonstrating that your entitlement to your legacy was not a matter of contention, but of fact. The more they tried to fabricate reality, the clearer it became that their efforts were a hollow imitation of rightful inheritance. The judicial outcome of this process extended far beyond the courtroom walls. Your name, once at risk of being erased, was officially restored, and the claims of your opponents were systematically delegitimized. This was not just a victory for the present moment. It set a precedent and created a permanent record that future generations could reference with certainty. The evidence documented in legal proceedings and corroborated by scrutiny ensures that no subsequent attempt to challenge your place in the family story can succeed without confronting the undeniable truth. Through this process, the inheritance case transcended material gain. It became a lesson in the power of steadfast integrity, that rightful belonging is recognized not by the loudest voice or the most cunning scheme, but by consistent truth, unshakable resolve, and the courage to stand firm against illegitimate opposition. By claiming what was yours, you not only secured your legacy, but also delegitimized imposters, ensuring that your lineage and the historical record remain intact, honored, and undisputed. Your inheritance battle redefined what justice truly means, showing that it is not a passive or abstract ideal, but an active, persistent force that responds to truth when it is presented unwaveringly. The system, though imperfect and often slow, cannot ultimately suppress facts when confronted by persistence, clarity, and undeniable evidence. What your case revealed is that justice does not merely observe, it engages, it sorts, and it corrects. Lies, fabricated documents, and manipulated testimonies may temporarily obscure reality, but persistence in defending truth forces the scales to tip in its favor. Your refusal to accept deception allowed the legal process to operate as it was meant to, exposing corruption and compelling accountability. The message embedded in this battle extends beyond the immediate courtroom. Corruption, no matter how cleverly concealed, eventually collapses under sustained scrutiny. Each contradiction in the opposition's story, every forged signature, and every coached witness became a building block in the structure of truth that could not be dismantled. Justice, in this sense, is not simply about punishing wrongdoing or distributing material reward. It is about restoring balance, correcting historical distortions, and reaffirming the principles that allow fairness to endure. By standing firm, you did not simply win a case, you activated the mechanisms that preserve integrity, showing the world that even broken systems can be made to serve truth when confronted with relentless persistence. Your victory in redefining justice sends a powerful lesson to all who observe truth cannot be buried indefinitely. Corruption cannot sustain itself under inspection, and persistence is the instrument through which balance, restoration, and rightful authority are achieved. The inheritance you claimed became a symbol not only of assets reclaimed, but of a moral system activated, ensuring that justice is both lived and felt, rather than merely written on paper. While the estate itself might appear to outsiders as the ultimate prize, the true victory in your inheritance case lay far beyond material assets. The real triumph was the unmasking of deception, the revelation of lies, manipulation, and calculated betrayal that had been carefully hidden from view. Every forged signature, every coached witness, every covert attempt to rewrite history became public record under the scrutiny of the court. What the opposition had spent years constructing in secrecy was dismantled piece by piece, not through aggression or theatrics, but through your unwavering insistence on truth. This unmasking exposed the depth of corruption, turning what seemed like a simple dispute over property into a powerful demonstration of accountability and transparency. The victory, therefore, was not merely about reclaiming land wealth or titles. It was about illuminating the hidden mechanisms of dishonesty and bringing them into the light for all to witness. The impact of this revelation rippled through social dynamics in ways that cannot be measured by money alone. Trust was recalibrated, reputations were reshaped, and alliances that had been built on deceit were irrevocably weakened. Those who once assumed they could manipulate outcomes or exploit relationships found their influence diminished, while your steadfastness and integrity elevated your standing in the eyes of peers, authorities, and the broader community. By turning the courtroom into a stage for truth, you redefined the social currency of loyalty, honor, and legitimacy. What others mistook for an inheritance of assets became in reality a profound inheritance of authority, clarity, and the moral high ground. Your triumph demonstrated that unmasking deception is a form of power that endures far longer than material gain, permanently reshaping how your family, allies, and even adversaries perceive justice, trust, and integrity. Your victory did not simply close a chapter in a legal dispute, it activated a chain reaction of exposure that no one could contain. Winning the inheritance case triggered intense legal scrutiny, turning previously hidden fraudulent acts into evidence that could not be ignored. Every forged signature, manipulated document, and orchestrated lie left a trail, and your steadfast persistence ensured that each piece was traced, investigated, and linked to those responsible. What had once seemed like an impenetrable web of deceit suddenly became a roadmap for accountability. The court's verdict did more than affirm your rightful claim. It illuminated every corner where dishonesty had thrived, exposing the architects of fraud and corruption. The consequences of this exposure were immediate and unavoidable. The carefully constructed schemes of your opponents began to crumble, each attempt to conceal their actions only reinforcing the trail of evidence against them. Emails, phone records, bank transactions, and even casual admissions became markers of intent that investigators could follow with precision. Every act of intimidation, every effort to manipulate witnesses, and every forged document was no longer a tool for deception. It became proof of culpability. Persistence, patience, and an unwavering commitment to truth transformed the inheritance battle into a mechanism that forced the system to respond, activating systemic justice that extended far beyond the courtroom walls. By standing firm, you ensured that the deception could no longer remain hidden. What your adversaries intended as a strategy to erase you instead became the evidence that sealed their exposure. This chain reaction demonstrates a profound truth. When you defend what is rightfully yours with integrity, persistence not only restores what was lost, but also compels justice to move, revealing hidden wrongdoing and enforcing consequences in ways that cannot be undone. Your victory became a catalyst, ensuring that those who sought to undermine truth now faced the weight of their own actions. Every attempt by your opponents to bury you, to silence your rightful claim, ultimately became the instrument of their own undoing. Their efforts, threats, intimidation, fabricated witnesses, and manipulated documents were intended to erase your presence from the inheritance story. Yet each act of deceit left a trace. Each fabricated line created a path that investigators, clerks, and legal experts could follow. What they assumed would protect their ambitions instead illuminated their wrongdoing. Every forged signature, every hurried phone call, and every orchestrated lie became a public record of their malice. In trying to erase you, they inadvertently unearthed themselves, leaving a trail of evidence that exposed their intentions, their coordination, and their disregard for truth. The courtroom, which they had hoped to manipulate, transformed into an arena of moral reckoning. What was designed as a stage for their triumph became a theater where their credibility collapsed in full view of judges, witnesses, and peers. The very place they thought could be controlled by influence and fear now amplified the weight of their deception. Every lie that had been rehearsed faltered under scrutiny. Every attempt at coercion backfired, revealing desperation and guilt. The more energy they invested in suppressing you, the more visible their corruption became. In the end, their schemes did not eliminate your claim, they magnified the contrast between integrity and deceit. You did not merely survive their attacks. You turned their own efforts into evidence of their moral and legal failures. The courtroom was no longer just a space for legal argument. It became a mirror reflecting the truth, where the actions of those who sought to destroy you were displayed for all to see. Your victory, therefore, was as much about exposing their failures as it was about securing what was rightfully yours. In attempting to bury you, they became the architects of their own collapse, and the proof of their deceit now stands undeniable. This inheritance battle was never solely about material gain. It was a spiritual and historical victory, a channel through which your ancestors finally spoke. Every act of persistence, every presentation of evidence, every refutation of lies became more than a personal triumph. It became the voice of generations whose rights, names, and legacies had been suppressed or erased. What you achieved in that courtroom was a restoration of ancestral dignity, a validation that the struggles, sacrifices, and silenced voices of those who came before you were not in vain. Through your unwavering commitment to truth, you became the living vessel through which justice flowed backward in time, giving expression to stories long hidden, truths long ignored, and legacies long denied. The culmination of this case goes beyond legal documentation. It bridges generations, uniting the present struggle with the weight of history and the wisdom of lineage. In standing firmly in your rightful claim, you transformed a contested inheritance into a multidimensional reckoning, legal, moral, and spiritual. The verdict was more than a confirmation of assets. It was an acknowledgement that destiny, integrity, and familial honor cannot be permanently stolen. Every false narrative introduced to manipulate the outcome was dismantled, and each victory reinforced the deeper truth that your lineage, your history, and your rightful place endure, regardless of attempts to erase them. By channeling the strength of your ancestors, you carried their final word into the present moment. Your fight was not only for yourself, it was for the legacy they entrusted to you, for the recognition they were denied, and for the affirmation that rightful heirs, whether living or long gone, will ultimately be heard. In this way, your victory transcends the courtroom, becoming a testament to the power of persistence, justice, and generational continuity. The true inheritance of this battle was never about property, bank accounts, or material wealth. What you gained was a transformation that cannot be measured, taxed, or stolen, a state of being forged through persistence, integrity, and unshakable resilience. Every challenge, every forged document, and every attempt to intimidate or erase you only strengthened your position, shaping a presence that no lie, manipulation, or threat could touch. In claiming what was rightfully yours, you became untouchable, not because others allowed it, but because you cultivated a strength so profound that their schemes bounced off your resolve like pebbles against a mountain. This is the inheritance that transcends wealth. It is the cultivation of enduring power, of an identity rooted in truth, and of an inner authority that cannot be undermined. This transformation carries an enduring legacy far beyond material gain. Strength, moral authority, and the clarity of integrity now define your place in the world. Those who sought to suppress you discovered too late that the battle was never truly theirs to win. It was about revealing who you were and what you could withstand. Your persistence reshaped the rules, proving that influence, reputation, and legacy are earned through endurance and unwavering adherence to truth. Ultimately, your legal victory becomes a demonstration of unstoppable power and the irrefutable force of truth. You have rewritten the narrative, transforming an inheritance dispute into a blueprint for triumph against deceit and manipulation. Your story stands as proof that when one refuses to bow, the combination of courage, integrity, and persistence becomes untouchable, establishing a legacy that will echo for generations. Your victory in this inheritance battle was never merely about reclaiming assets. It was about rewriting family history, redefining what justice looks like, and proving that rightful place cannot be erased by lies, manipulation, or deceit. Through every courtroom moment, every exposed forgery, and every stand you took, you restored not just possessions, but dignity, truth, and the authority of your lineage. You have shown that persistence, courage, and unwavering adherence to integrity are forces stronger than any legal maneuver or temporary advantage your opponents may have attempted to wield. The legacy you now hold transcends money or property. It is a living testament to the power of standing firm, of asserting truth, and of letting justice in all its complex, persistent, and sometimes slow-moving form assert itself. For those watching, let this story be more than inspiration. Let it be a call to action. Subscribe to witness ongoing revelations of courage and persistence. Like the video to affirm that truth and resilience matter. Comment to share your thoughts, your own struggles, and your experiences with overcoming deception and injustice. And share this story with others who need to see that persistence in the face of corruption, greed, or betrayal can overturn even the most impossible battles. Finally, may this victory serve as a spiritual and moral reinforcement, reminding you that justice, legacy, and truth are aligned with higher principles. May the courage, clarity, and righteousness exemplified here guide your own path, protect your lineage, and empower you to claim what is yours, both seen and unseen. God bless every step of your journey, and may your victories ripple across generations.